I think Jameis gives us some stability at the position. I thought there was a lot of things that we saw Jameis do in those first 7 weeks that gave us a lot of optimism about what we can be as a team with him. And so we're excited about that moving forward. Well, look, I don't think we go into detail in terms of exactly what that entailed, other than, there was an interest on our part. We did our due diligence and did our homework, and he ended up going somewhere else. So we moved forward from there and went full speed ahead with Jameis, and excited about that. Listen, I mean, it was one of those things that we felt like we did our due diligence. We felt like we did our homework on, and felt good about where we were at. And I think really we just move on from there now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's something that we continue to hash out. I think we move on. Yeah. Jameis was great. And Jameis understands how our business operates. And he was great during the whole process. He and I had a couple of good, call it tough conversations. And I thought it was a good process.
How do you guys feel about your receiver?
I think it's still a position that we want to try to add to. But we certainly feel good about being able to get Traquan Smith back, having Deontay Hardy, having Mike Thomas come back. So we feel good about the position, but yet it's still a position that I think we want to try to add to. Really tough. Again, that's part of the business that we're in. Certainly we would have loved to have been able to have him back. I'm happy he got a number that he felt good about. And it'll be his play, his leadership, his ability in the locker room to just be a leader in the locker room. I think that's we're gonna miss that. Good veteran safety, has some flexibility, can play both positions in the back end, can play strong, can play free, has range in the back end, smart, instinctive. Remember watching him, coming out of Florida, really liked him then, and seeing him at the Jets. He was somebody that we felt like had that kind of versatility that we're looking for. I think, look, in a perfect world scenario, yes, but it doesn't always work out that way. I go all the way back to, when I was here the first time we won the Super Bowl, and it was Roman Harper and Darren Sharper, and they were two different types of players. And so I think it's our job as coaches to figure out exactly who we have and how we have to utilize those players. And certainly in a perfect world scenario, you like to have the flexibility that, they can both be play back and play down in the paint, but it's probably the exception to the rule rather than the rule. Well, look, there's a lot of time between now and the start of the season, so I would anticipate there will be a lot of different things that will happen between now and then. I can't say exactly what those things are going to be right now, But yeah, I would anticipate that we're certainly always looking to see if there's a way that we can help improve our team. A little bit of the same in terms of just some versatility. Um, he can play defensive tackle. He can play nose. He can play a strong side end. So there's some flexibility there. Also like the fact that Ryan coached him, and so there's a little bit of familiarity with the player in that regard. Hey, Shireen, how are you? Awesome.
How do you see Sorensen?
Excuse me.
Daniel Sorensen out? What's kind of the
I see him. I see him a lot in the role that Jeff Heath was utilized in. I see him being a guy that can play multiple spots. He played a lot of like dime linebacker in Kansas City, and so I think again there's another player that I think is smart. He's tough, and he's got a lot of versatility. Yeah, I mean, how do I say this without getting myself in trouble? Look, I think we play with the rules that are set before us, and I'm not necessarily always a big proponent of trying to change a lot of stuff. I kind of like the game the way it is, and you know, if that's the rules that we have to play by, then it's our job as a defense to go out there and stop them. Um, well, yeah, I mean he's probably the greatest quarterback of all time, so there's a little bit of like, damn, I thought we were done with this guy. Um, but but yeah, look, certainly we enjoy the challenge of having to go up against him, and they're a hell of a team, and so we just I don't know that I had a big reaction to it. I mean a little surprised, um, but yet look, it is what it is. Look, we've been fortunate, specifically when we've played them at their place, that we've played, really well defensively. Um, and if I was going to credit anything, I'd say we got a lot of really good players. And so when you got a lot of really good players and you put a decent plan together, good things happen.
It's kind of a broad question, but I don't think we've ever asked you like your offensive philosophy. Like, just kind of ideally, like what type
Score more points than they do.
of
Um, yeah, I think we want to be able to. It all sounds cliche, You want to be a balanced offense. You want to be able to run the ball, play action, all those kinds of things. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, really as a team, I want our team to be tough. I want our team to be smart, play the game the right way, like understand situational football, don't beat yourself, and I want our team to, compete on every single play. And I think if you boil it down to those simple three things, and you can do those three things, I think you're going to be pretty good. Um, yeah, I think we've done a pretty decent job, in terms of this offseason of trying to fill a few spots. Um, Certainly, the quarterback must is always the biggest one that you got to make sure that you fill. We feel good about where we're at there, and there's still a couple of things on the roster that I think we want to be able to do, and but we're going to take our time in doing that. I've found that, and we've found as an organization that usually our best moves are usually not the ones that everybody wants to write about and talk about and tweet about or whatever. Our best moves are, going and getting a guy like a Demario Davis that wasn't like this splash signing, but fits our culture, fits a specific need that we have, and has a he's the type of player or the type of personality that we're looking for, and it just becomes a good fit, and they have success. And so I think that's what we're continuing to do. No, not really, because I think people on the outside world look at things and say, "Wow, that was a great signing," or that was, and if you really look over the course of free agency, and you'd say they signed a certain player for this high number and big contract, and then a lot of times 3 years later you might look down the road and you'd say, well, this he's no longer with that team for one reason or another. Generally it becomes some sort of salary cap casualty or whatever, and so I think there's times where that can benefit you, but I'd say as an overall philosophy, I'd rather augment our team through free agency and really build our team through the draft. Well, I think the number one thing was 14-3. So 14 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. I think that was the biggest thing that showed me that, he can be our quarterback. I thought he did a great job of protecting the ball, and we were 5-2 with him as a starting quarterback, and so I felt like he was a guy that gave us an opportunity to win, and so so we felt good about that. I think probably the biggest thing was, like, I thought he did a really good job with his decision making, and he protected the football. He put our team in a position to win. And I think in our league, like, the number one thing you have to do is figure out how not to lose games before you can really figure out how to win them. And look, I thought he did a great job of understanding the type of team that we have and putting our team in a position to go win, and he did a good job of that. He is. I don't know if I hate to put timelines or anything like that, but I think he's on course, and he'll be ready when we need him to be ready. Well, look, I just think the longer you're around somebody, the more you're around somebody, the more you get a chance to kind of get to know them a little bit and get a feel for who they are, and not just my relationship with him, but his relationship with me, and get to know me a little bit. So, I think it's an organic process. I think it just happens naturally, and the more you spend time with somebody, the better that relationship gets.
Hey, Dennis. How you doing?
Hey, Jared, what's up, buddy? I'm 1-0 in my second stint.
What's the growth process for you?
Yeah, I think overall I would just say I've seen a lot more. I've done a lot more. I'm way more experienced than I was the first time I did this, and so things don't really surprise me as much anymore as maybe they would have going through it for the first time. And so I kind of wake up every day and know that there's going to be a certain challenge that I'm going to have to deal with every day, and I go into the office with the mindset of got a couple of problems that I'm going to have to solve today, and know that not every day is going to be a perfect day, and I don't think I was probably quite ready for that the first time, to be honest with you. and I think I'm way more prepared for that now.
To that end, how did Sean Payton influence, even if it was making that intentional?
Well, I think this. I think when you watch one of the best to ever do it, um, it's a really cool experience and a good growing experience for me. And I think just watching the confidence that he had in doing his job, and really just the understanding that, um, man, you're in charge, and you got to do it the way that you think is the best in your mind for your team. Um, and that's probably kind of the coolest thing that I learned just in watching him. Yeah, it's probably not my position to really comment too much on coaches on other teams, other than to just say I think he was outstanding, and I think he's got a bright future.
Is the value for your young edge players over the last few years going against Terron Armstead in practice? Or was that how much on field is he going to be missed as well?
Yeah, look, I think anytime you have good players that compete against each other on a daily basis, you don't have any choice but to really get better. And so I think that was a huge benefit for us. I think Terron's going to be missed in terms of his leadership in the locker room, in terms of his play on the field. Um, but at the same time, I feel confident with the guys that we have, in our building, to be able to step up and fill in his role. And quite honestly, there's been some time that Terron's missed on the field, and guys have stepped into that role and done a good job for us. So we feel good about where we're at in that position. Yeah, I feel good about it. I feel real good about it. He's done a great job for us, and have all the confidence in the world that he can step into that position if that's where we end up being. Well, look, I think part of being the head coach is establishing those relationships with your players, regardless of who those players were. Um, I do feel like that, um, Mike's kind of been a little bit on the periphery, really, for the last couple of years because of the injury. And I just feel like it's important that, he is one of our better players. And I think that relationship between he and I is important. So yeah, I felt like it was a cool deal to go out and see him in California, going through the rehab process, and just get some time to just visit with him just personally, and get to know him a little bit better. Yeah. No, I don't think it was a clear the air type of deal. It was really just um, me going to see one of our better players and kind of get to know him a little bit.
At the end of last season, Tom Brady was kind of a common player. You guys know he'll be back next year.
Malcolm, um, I'm not sure. I think that's probably a question for Malcolm.
I know you were coaching the other side of the ball, but what are the Lions getting in Garrett Griffin?
Excuse me?
Garrett Griffin, what are the Lions getting in him? I know you were coaching the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I think they're getting a competitive football player that can do a lot of different things. I think he's smart. I think he'll be a good fit for them. And then, look, obviously Dan coached him, so he feels good about it.
What about your time working with Aaron Bud? I know you said, talk about other coaches and other teams, but he just talks about.
AG's my guy, man. He and I played together, so I think he's outstanding. I think he did a hell of a job last year. And I think, again, he's a guy that's going to be moving up in our profession.
Yeah, you think head coach is in the near future for him?
I would think so. I think tough, competitive, you know, He's a guy that can do all the dirty work for us. I think he's probably a little bit of an underrated player. I think he's been great in our locker room. He's a good leader for us, and really, I think you talk about a lot of superstars, and they get a lot of the limelight, a lot of the credit, a lot of the notoriety. But it's guys like that you want to be able to fill your team with. Just those tough, smart, competitive type guys. Well, I would see his role being very similar to the role that he's played, and he's done a really good job in that role. Look, we kept Pete Carmichael on as the offensive coordinator, which was really cool to be able to do, and so the philosophy offensively, you guys asked me about the role for guys. Like, I see this being the same offense that we've been for the last 16 years, and hopefully we can continue to work to improve on it. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's because that's the type of player that we're looking for. Tough, smart, competitive. He's got all those qualities. And to come in, as a rookie and play that position, linebacker is one of the more difficult positions to play because it's the only position that you play where things are happening on every side of you. There's things that are happening in front of you, things that are happening to your right, to your left, behind you, and you have to be aware of all those different things. Play the run, play the pass. It's a challenging position to play, and I thought he really did a really nice job of stepping in. He played both Will and Mike and was ready to play some Sam if we needed him to. So I'm really excited about Pete. Look, I feel like we saw a lot of really good things out of Jameis in the first 7 weeks last year. He's had two seasons in the offense. So I felt like as the season kind of wore on last year, he got more and more comfortable with what we were asking him to do. And I see that process continuing this year, and feel good about where he's at, excited about working with him. I think he brings an element of throwing the ball down the field that maybe we didn't quite have as much in years past. So, and he did a great job of protecting the football. Number one would be good players who understand the plan and go out and execute it. It's really not that complicated. It's we try to take away some of the things that they do really well, and we got good players, and usually when you look at teams that have success, I don't care who you're talking about or who they're playing. If they have success, usually it's because they got some pretty good players doing it. Well, I think if you ask the fans, I think the fans would say that Atlanta would be the number one rival. I don't really get into the whole rival thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's a game, and our job is to go out and win the game. So whoever that is, whether that's, Tampa or Dallas or Green Bay or, it's a NFC team, and we got to go out there and play and go win. So I don't know. Look, do I think our guys get excited about playing against Tom Brady, who's probably the best to ever play the game? Yeah, I think they do get excited about that. But but I don't know that we treat it a whole lot differently. Yeah, I don't know that there's like this end goal in mind that hey, I want to make sure that they know this about me. Um, it's just let's go sit down, have a conversation. Let's you know have a meal, drink a cup of coffee, and let's talk. And let's talk about um, I give them my background. Find out what their background is. I think once you kind of know where people come from, you kind of have a little bit of better idea of maybe why they do some of the things that they do. You know, um, so it's not this like calculated plan of wow, I want to make sure I do this. It's just let's go hang out for a little bit. Um, Two really good coaches um, that I think are fully capable and qualified to do the job. And so I felt like that was kind of the right way to go. It's a little bit of a way to reward both those guys. Um, I think it's probably one of the more talented defensive staffs that I've ever been a part of. And I think both Ryan and Chris are certainly deserving of that title and that role. And so why not give it to them?
When you guys are going through free agencies, is that the position of the draft part of the equation of how maybe you'll spend your free agent dollars on?
Well, yeah, I think all of that takes place. I don't think we make any decision solely based off of, well, we're going to sign this guy in free agency because the draft isn't as good, or we're not going to sign a guy in free agency because the draft is really good in that position. I think it's just all kind of part of the puzzle. Mike was the only one that I went specifically to go visit. And a lot of it was because he was going to be doing his rehab out in California, and so it was easier for me to try to get out there to go visiting. Plus, I got a couple days in Malibu. I think the role for Taysom really is going to be a lot more of the kind of F tight end, move tight end type of role. I think that's the direction that we need to move with him, because I think he can be one of the better players in the league in that role. And so I don't like having Taysom. If Jameis is out there playing quarterback, I don't really like Taysom standing next to me on the sideline. And so I think you'll see him more in that type of role. I haven't even gotten that far. We'll talk about jersey colors later. We'll see. I know. I can't hear you. Doing well. He was just back in New Orleans for a checkup just yesterday, I think it was. Look, he showed flashes of the player that we think he can be, but yet there's just not a lot of evidence right now, and so I'm anxious to get back with him and work with him, because I think there's a talented player there, and hopefully we can get him going and we can get him to hopefully reach that potential that he has. Look, it's hard to really say. I mean, um, everybody wants to kind of compare this draft to other drafts and where's it deep, where's it not deep. The honest to God's truth is you're not going to know until 3 years from now really how good it was, because it's not until they get in and start playing that you kind of realize exactly what you have. So I do know that I feel like the numbers are maybe a little bit more, and I feel like really you're probably looking at some guys maybe in years past that might have been late round draft choice that might be available as college free agents. How's it going?
Very random question for you, but there's been a lot of big time player movement this offseason. Obviously, a lot of it is related to players sort of. This is not a question about your team, just generally. A lot of it is players sort of exercising their power and leveraging and so forth. Just what do you think about that? It's more of an NBA sort of deal that we've seen more so in this league lately. Do you think that is just isolated to just those rare players who can exert that kind of pressure, or that'll be more of a normal?
Look, I haven't really put a whole lot of thought into it other than, we've had free agency in the NFL for a long time, and it's part of the business of pro football, and certainly there's times when the player has the leverage, and then I think there's times when the team has the leverage, and I think just like any other business, when you have the leverage, you want to utilize it to your benefit. So I just think it's business.